This is a lesson on inductive reasoning. This is section 2.1. Past experience. What will happen? It's cloudy outside and it seems to be getting darker. You haven't seen a weather forecast, but you decide to go indoors. Why? Well, chances are you've probably been caught in the rain before, and it probably wasn't the most pleasurable experience. You're using your past experience to make a decision in the future. That's what this lesson's on. What you did there was you used inductive reasoning. We're going to do the same thing with examples that deal with math. So here are some figures. There is a pattern from figure 1 to figure 2, and figure 2 to figure 3. There's some changes. What's figure 4 going to look like? No, hopefully you realize it's going to be a circle. That's a pretty awful looking circle. But notice how we have one segment going through the circle, and then two segments going through the circle, splitting it into 4 equal pieces. This doesn't really look like three, well, it's 3 segments, but it doesn't really make 6 equal pieces. Oh. But the idea is you should have 4 segments that split this into 8 pieces. Sometimes you can have a pattern with numbers. So we're going from -7 to -21, -21 to -63, and -63 to -189. What's happening here? If you multiply 7 by 3, -7 by 3, you get -21. See if that same thing happens here. What would happen if you took -21 times 3? You would get -63. If you would multiply -63 by 3, you would get -189. That's the pattern. So the inductive reasoning that we're using here is recognizing that we're multiplying each previous term by 3. So do the same thing again. Let's multiply the previous term by 3. And that puts us at -567. Okay, so we've kind of already used these terms. Inductive reasoning is when you find a pattern. The conjecture is the prediction that you make. It's based on your observations. So we're going to use inductive reasoning, and we're going to make a conjecture about the next 3 terms of these sequences. So use inductive reasoning first. What is the pattern? It looks like we're adding 0.2 to each term. So our next term would be 1.85. Then it would have 2.05. And then 2.25. We used inductive reasoning to find a pattern, and then we made a conjecture about the next 3 terms. In number 2, it doesn't look like we're adding because our numbers are getting smaller. So technically you could add a negative here if you wanted to. But are we going down by the same amount each time? Looks like we're going down by 5 each time. So if you subtract 5, then subtract 5, subtract 5 again, that would put you at -2. Subtract 5 again, and subtract 5 one more time. This is recognizing the pattern. That's inductive reasoning. This is your conjecture. We had a sequence where we added. We had one where we subtracted. This one uses a new operation. We're going to divide by 2. Now, you could technically multiply by 1/2 as well. It would get you to the same spot. 32 divided by 2, 16 divided by 2, 8 divided by 2, 4 divided by 2, and then 2 divided by 2. Next sequence is a little bit different. We're originally increasing by 2, then we go up by 3, then we go up by 4. So your next term, we're going to add 5. Then we'll add 6. And then we'll add 7. This pattern is similar to this one, except we're not adding from one to the other. We're going to multiply by 2. Then multiply by 3. Then multiply by 4, so on and so forth. So we need 24 times 5. We need 120 times 6. We need 720 times 7. Number 6, looks like we're adding 1, adding 3, adding 5, so we'll add 7, then we'll add 9, then we'll add 11. Last one. This is definitely a tricky one. Don't want to do that. I'll write it right in here. This number 1 is really 1 to the 3rd power. That's 1 times 1 times 1. 8 is 2 to the 3rd power. 2 times 2 times 2 gives you 8. "27 is really 3 times 3 times 3. 64 is 4 times 4 times 4. You might not have recognized this at first, but the next time you see it, you probably will. So our next term is going to be 5 to the 3rd power, which should be 125. Then 6 to the 3rd power, which would be 216. And then 7 to the 3rd power. Which would be 343.